What if I told you that the single most effective, most popular, and most widely used engine additive in history wasn't just a scam, but was a literal poison, a deadly neurotoxin sold to the public as a miracle liquid? And what if I told you the man who invented it knew it was poison because he was suffering from severe lead poisoning himself while he was promoting it? This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a dark and forgotten chapter of automotive history that reveals a disturbing truth about the magic potions we're still being sold today. We've all seen them. You walk into any auto parts store and there's an entire aisle, a wall of wonder, filled with colorful bottles, all promising to fix your engine. They promise more power, better fuel economy, a quieter engine, a cleaner engine. They promise to bring your tired old car back from the dead. Some of these bottles cost $10, $20, even $50, and we buy them, hoping for a miracle. But what are we actually pouring into our engines? Are we helping, or are we just falling for the same old marketing tricks that have been used for 100 years? The truth is that glittering wall of additives hides a spectrum of products ranging from surprisingly useful to completely useless to downright harmful. And at the very end of that spectrum lies one that is certifiably deadly. To understand why we're all so desperate for a fix-in-a-bottle, we need to talk about the dirty secret of the modern engine. That secret is called GDI, or gasoline direct injection. For decades, most cars used what's called port injection. It was simple. The fuel injectors would spray gasoline onto the back of the engine's intake valves. Now, the gasoline we use is packed with detergents, powerful cleaning agents. So every single time your engine ran, the valves were getting a nice, continuous shower of cleaning fluid. It was a self-cleaning system, and it worked beautifully. But in the relentless pursuit of better fuel economy and lower emissions, automakers switched to GDI. With GDI, the fuel is injected directly into the cylinder itself, completely bypassing the valves. At first, this sounds like a brilliant move. It's more precise, more efficient, and it allows for incredible engineering advancements. But it created a catastrophic, unintended consequence. Your engine has a crankcase ventilation system that recycles oil vapor back into the engine to be burned off. In a port-injected engine, that oily mist would get washed off the valves by the gasoline. But in a GDI engine with no gasoline shower to clean them, that hot, oily vapor hits the scorching hot intake valves and just bakes on. It cooks itself into thick, hard, stubborn layers of carbon, like plaque in an artery. And it just keeps building up thicker and thicker with every mile you drive. It's not a question of if your GDI engine will have this problem, it's a matter of when. It is guaranteed by the very design. A master ASE technician on the Mechanics Hub forum put it perfectly, saying, "It's not a matter of if a GDI engine will need carbon cleaning, it's a matter of when. The design itself guarantees it. And this isn't just some minor inconvenience. We're talking about a serious performance killer." Major manufacturers have issued technical service bulletins about this very issue. One from the Volkswagen and Audi group revealed that severe GDI carbon buildup can choke the engine, reducing airflow by as much as 30 to 40%. Imagine trying to run a marathon while breathing through a coffee straw. That's what your engine is doing. You feel it as hesitation, rough idling, misfires, and a significant loss of power. The only real fix is a manual cleaning, a brutal and expensive process often called walnut blasting, where a technician blasts the valves with crushed walnut shells to scour the carbon off. It's a job that can easily cost you $800, $1,000, even $1,500. So you can see why the idea of a $10 or $20 bottle that promises to melt all that gunk away is so incredibly tempting. People are desperate for a solution, and that desperation is what the additive industry thrives on. But here's the good news. Among the snake oil, there are a few products that actually do what they claim. They aren't magic, they're just science. When it comes to cleaning, especially in GDI engines, you want to look for one key ingredient, PA, or polyethyramine. This is a potent, high-temperature detergent that can survive the intense heat of the combustion chamber and actually work to dissolve carbon deposits. While it can't perform the miracle of cleaning the back of your intake valves, because remember, the fuel never touches them, it can do a fantastic job of cleaning your injectors, your piston tops, and your cylinder walls. There's a legendary case study on the Bob is the Oil Guy forum, a place where lubrication nerds gather to share incredible amounts of data. A user with a Toyota engine known for getting horribly sludgy decided to run a can of seafoam through his engine right before an oil change. Now, this is a product that gets a lot of debate, but this user did something brilliant. He used a borescope to take pictures from inside his engine before and after. The results were stunning. The before pictures showed piston tops caked with thick black carbon. The after pictures were almost unbelievable. The pistons were significantly cleaner, with much of the carbon completely gone, revealing the shiny metal underneath. It was visual, undeniable proof that the right chemical cleaner can absolutely dissolve the gunk inside your engine. Using a good PE-based cleaner regularly can save you a fortune. Instead of facing an $800 repair bill every few years, a $17 bottle every 10,000 miles can keep the heart of your engine healthy. And it's not just about gasoline engines. Diesel owners have their own set of problems. The switch to ultra-low sulfur diesel, or ULSD, was great for the environment, but it had a nasty side effect. Sulfur acted as a lubricant for the high-pressure fuel pump and injectors. Removing it increased wear. Tests have shown that standard ULSD can produce wear scars on metal components of up to 5 to 20 microns. That might sound small, but in a system with incredibly tight tolerances, it's a death sentence for a multi-thousand-dollar fuel system. This is where a quality diesel additive shines. A product like Hot Shot's Everyday Diesel Treatment has been proven to reduce those wear scars by up to 159 microns. That is a massive improvement in lubricity that can be the difference between a truck that runs for 500,000 miles and one that needs a new fuel pump at 150,000. There are other legitimate uses too. If you're a classic car enthusiast, you know that modern oils are missing something your engine desperately needs: ZDDP, which stands for zinc diol thiophosphate. It's a critical anti-wear additive for engines with flat tappet camshafts. Environmental regulations have forced oil makers to reduce ZDDP levels because it can harm catalytic converters. For a modern car, that's fine. For your 1969 Camaro, it's catastrophic. But you can buy ZDDP boosters. A product like Lucas TB Zinc Plus can take the zinc content in your oil and boost it to more than 5,000 parts per million, providing that essential sacrificial layer of protection your vintage engine needs to survive. So yes, good additives exist. They are targeted solutions to specific, well-understood problems. They are backed by data, and they have loyal followings for a reason. Even the world-famous mechanic Scotty Kilmer, who is famously skeptical of almost everything, has become an unofficial ambassador for a couple of specific additives he has tested and believes in. But for every one of those honest products, there's a dark side. There's a whole category of additives built on junk science and misleading claims. And the king of this category, the poster child for automotive snake oil, has to be the Teflon engine treatment. You probably remember the name Slick 50. In the 80s and 90s, they were everywhere. Their marketing was brilliant. They claimed their special PTFE formula, that's polytetrafluoroethylene, the generic chemical name for Teflon, would bond to the metal parts inside your engine, creating a super slippery protective layer. They ran commercials showing engines running for minutes on end with no oil at all, supposedly protected by Slick 50. They made bold claims, promising it reduces friction by up to 50% and prevents engine wear at startup, which is when most wear occurs. It sounded incredible, and millions of people bought it. There was just one problem. It was all a lie. The Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, eventually caught up with them. In 1997, Slick 50 got slapped with a massive $10 million fine. But what's crucial to understand is that the FTC ruling wasn't just about a fine. Their investigation found that the company had made false and unsubstantiated claims. The FTC's own analysis concluded there was absolutely no proof that Slick 50 reduced engine wear by 50%, or that it prevented wear at startup, or that it did much of anything beneficial at all. The science behind why it doesn't work is actually quite simple. PTFE, or Teflon, is a solid. The marketing wants you to imagine it plating your engine's internals like a non-stick frying pan. But in reality, it's just microscopic particles of plastic suspended in the oil. It has no chemical mechanism to bond to metal. So where do these solid particles go? They just circulate around in your oil. Some of the smallest particles might get burned up, but the larger ones have a date with your oil filter. NASA engineers who looked into using PTFE as a lubricant found this exact problem. The particles accumulate in filters and oil passages, clogging them up. Think about that. You are pouring a product into your engine that is designed to clog the very device that keeps your oil clean. A restricted oil filter means reduced oil flow, which means oil starvation for critical components like your bearings and camshaft. You are literally paying money for a product that could, in a worst-case scenario, destroy your engine. Lake Speed Jr., a certified lubrication specialist who used to be a chemist for Joe Gibbs Racing, has a great saying. The oil blender is the best mechanic your engine will ever have. Trust their formulation before you trust a magic bottle. The engineers who formulate your engine oil have spent millions of dollars and countless hours creating a perfectly balanced chemical cocktail. The idea that you can improve it with a $20 bottle of suspended plastic is frankly absurd. But false advertising and clogged oil filters are just the minor leagues of bad additives. Now we have to talk about the big one, the one that wasn't just a scam, but a global catastrophe. We have to talk about tetrathyl lead. And to do that, we have to tell the story of one of the most brilliant and tragic inventors in history, Thomas Midgley Jr. In the early 1920s, car engines had a major problem: knock. Under load, the fuel in the cylinder would detonate instead of burning smoothly, creating a violent knocking sound that robbed the engine of power and could eventually destroy it. Automakers were desperate for a solution. A brilliant chemist named Thomas Midgley Jr., working for General Motors under the legendary Charles Kettering, was tasked with finding a fix. Midgley was a genius. He systematically tested thousands of chemical compounds, searching for something that would raise the octane of gasoline and stop knock. And in 1921, he found it, a compound called tetraethyl lead, or TEAL. When mixed with gasoline, it worked like magic. Engine knock completely disappeared. It allowed engineers to build higher compression, more powerful, and more efficient engines. It seemed like a miracle discovery that would change the world. And it did, just not in the way anyone hoped. Because TEL had a dark secret. It was an incredibly potent neurotoxin. The danger signs were there from the very beginning. Workers at the DuPont factories producing the stuff started getting sick. They experienced tremors, hallucinations, and violent insanity before dying horrible deaths. The press called it the loony gas building, but there was too much money to be made. GM, DuPont, and Standard Oil formed a joint venture to market TEL, and they needed to convince the public it was safe. So they called in the inventor himself. Thomas Midgley Jr., in a now infamous press conference, held a beaker of tetraethyl lead and poured it over his hands, then held an open flask of it to his nose and inhaled its fumes for a full 60 seconds, claiming he could do this every day without any trouble. It was a brazen act of corporate theater. What he didn't tell the press was that he was already suffering from severe, debilitating lead poisoning from his work. He knew exactly how dangerous it was. He was just a good soldier doing what the company asked. Atomizing it out of the tailpipes of our cars, letting it settle on our streets, in our soil, and in our water. The consequences have been nothing short of apocalyptic. A landmark 2022 study from Duke and Florida State University delivered a conclusion so staggering it's hard to even comprehend. They found that exposure to lead from gasoline exhaust stole a collective 824 million IQ points from more than 170 million Americans who are alive today. Almost half the population of the United States suffered measurable, permanent brain damage because of this gasoline additive. Another study published in The Lancet estimated that the global ban on lidded gasoline, which didn't fully happen in all countries until very recently, is now preventing more than 1.2 million premature deaths every single year and saving the world economy over $2.4 trillion annually. Let those numbers sink in. This wasn't a product with a minor side effect. It was a public health disaster on a global scale. And here is the sickest, most cynical part of the entire story. A perfectly safe, effective, and readily available alternative existed the entire time: ethanol. The companies knew it worked, but ethanol couldn't be patented. You can't control the production of alcohol made from corn. But tetraethyl lead? That could be patented. It could be controlled. And so GM, DuPont, and Standard Oil chose profit. They launched a massive public relations campaign to discredit ethanol and to downplay the horrifying health risks of lead, all so they could control the patent on a product that was actively poisoning their customers. As for Thomas Midgley Jr., the brilliant mind who gave them this poison, his story ends in the darkest of ironies. The lead poisoning eventually took its toll, and he was later crippled by polio, leaving him bedridden. Ever the inventor, at age 55, he designed an elaborate system of ropes and pulleys to help lift him out of bed. One day, he became entangled in his own contraption and was strangled to death. The man who invented the substance that caused more harm to the Earth's atmosphere than any other single organism in history was ultimately killed by another one of his own inventions. So when you walk down that aisle in the auto parts store and see that wall of colorful bottles, remember the story of tetraethyl lead. It's a powerful reminder to always be skeptical, to question the marketing claims, to look for the real science, and to understand what you're really pouring into your engine. There are good products out there, solutions based on real chemistry that can solve real problems. But that aisle is also full of modern-day snake oil, selling you hope in a bottle, and built on a long, dark history of choosing profits over proof. The best thing you can ever add to your engine is knowledge.